People going into a leadership position untrained, unprepared, it's quite common, and I think it's one of the most costly business decisions. Here's what typically happens. You've got an individual who's doing a great job, knows their product, hits their numbers, their team likes them. So what does the company do? We want to reward them, pull them out of this role, take them into a leadership role, but they do it without preparing them. And the outcome that happens from all of that is it puts a lot of pressure. It puts a lot of stress on that individual. Either that high potential burns out, or he hangs his boots and he's out of the company he leaves.
There'll be many people that are listening to this right now that run a team of people. They could be in a startup, they could be in an SME business. But as leaders, how do they teach desire?
A great leader creates leaders around him. Could you instill desire? Probably not. Could you, through your ambition and through your inspiration, pass that on a little bit to them, and then they get inspired and ambitious enough to say, you know what, this is not good enough.
Today's guest is going to talk all about leadership. My guest is Naoum Barakat. He's had leadership roles in HR in massive organizations like Mars, Lafarge, and Majid Al Futtaim, one of the biggest employers here in the UAE. He knows exactly what we need to understand. What is the difference between mentoring and coaching?
Coaching is the person who's being coached would be the one who's talking the most. A mentor is slightly different. A mentor would share with you his or her.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of the podcast. And before I start, like always, I say, please can you subscribe? If you're watching this on YouTube, your subscription to this is free of charge, but it will mean the world to me if you were able to do that. If you're listening on any of the podcast apps, a like, a follow, engagement, let me know what I'm doing well and let me know what I'm doing bad. I always want to improve for you. Now, today's guest is going to talk all about leadership. I think I see so many companies take employees on, put them through the corporate ladder, promote them up into new roles, yet they don't train them to do the job they've just been promoted to do. Maybe you've experienced that yourself on your career journey. Well, my guest is going to talk about why that problem exists, what can be done to stop it, and how we look at businesses and take an employee-first approach. How we can get the people in the company to have mission, purpose, a sense of belonging, and a desire to want to grow within the organization they join. For me, it's a fascinating subject, and I hope for you it will be too. My guest is Naoum Barakat. He's had leadership roles in HR in massive organizations like Mars, Lafarge, and Majid Al Futtaim, one of the biggest employers here in the UAE. He knows exactly what we need to understand. And because of that, I wanted him to come to the show. Please welcome someone I really enjoyed talking to, Naoum Barakat. Naoum, thank you for coming to join us on the show today. I really appreciate you making the time to be here.
Thank you for having me, Spencer. It's great.
Now, we're going to talk about a really boring subject, and hopefully we can turn that subject into something exciting. So before anybody switches off,
let's do it.
Let's start off with this first two words, human resources. You've been a HR expert now for many years.
Yep.
Worked at some multinational organizations, some big blue chips that have existed out there. So you've been exposed to, I'm sure, many different facets of how businesses are run and through a HRI. What really interests me, and I seem to find this every single company I go to, is that companies want to grow. They want to promote the ambitious people within their companies into leadership roles, but they don't want to train them. Mm-hmm. Why?
Well, again, thanks for having me here. I think this is a great question, Spencer. I'm not sure if it is that they don't want to train them. I think when you look at people going into a leadership position untrained or unprepared, it's quite common, and I think it's one of the most costly business decisions. So here's what typically happens. You've got an individual who's doing a great job, knows their product, hits their numbers, their team likes them. So what does the company do? We want to reward them, pull them out of this role, take them into a leadership role. but they do it without preparing them. And when I say without preparing them, it's without doing, a structured onboarding, without providing guidance or maybe minimal guidance. And the outcome that happens from all of that is it puts a lot of pressure. It puts a lot of stress on that individual. And the team that he or she is leading, it brings their morale down. So what ends up happening is either that high potential burns out, stresses out, or he hangs his boots and he's out of the company, he leaves. So the organization loses on both fronts. Now, this happens quite frequently and quite often. However, there are tools that organization, a lot of them uses, maybe not fully, but there are certain elements, certain things to do to prepare people. And I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but there's something called succession planning. So a lot of organizations, they prepare their leaders and their high potentials for succession. Now, what some companies miss out on is they do that step, but what some companies miss out on is they think they need to start preparing after the promotion, whereas succession planning happens long before the promotion. Once you've identified that high potential, that he or she is a successor for a certain role, that's where you start working on them, working on their key strengths. You want to build up on those strengths. You work on their key opportunities. And when we talk about a high potential, we're probably saying that individual functionally and technically, they are brilliant. They are really good. We want to focus on their leadership capabilities, on their behavioral capabilities. So that's where those opportunities can come in play. And it's not always about sending them to a training, an 8-hour workshop or something of that sort. It could come in so many different shapes and forms. It could be through shadowing another leader in the organization. It could be through a stretch assignment, taking them outside of their comfort zone and putting them somewhere else. So when you do that, you are actually preparing that individual for success. Now, I like to look at succession planning as a kind of hitting two birds with one stone. One, you are setting the company and the individual up for success, but as well, you are ensuring that you keep that individual engaged and motivated. It shows them that you are investing in their future, that you've identified through a individual development plan or anything of the sort, what are the key things that that person needs to learn or become better at, and you are investing it back in them. So it's kind of, the company wins, the employee wins. Once the opportunity is there, they can rise up to the challenge. So yes, some companies do miss out on that. Some of them do just one step, which is ticking the box, doing the succession plan. But a lot of other organizations, and I've seen it in my previous organizations, where you really invest in those individuals once you've identified them.
Let's say I'm working for a blue chip organization. Well, it doesn't matter what the company is. I'm working for a company and I know that there's a promotion coming. I know there's 3 or 4 of us that are in the running for it.
Yep.
Okay. And guess what? The big day comes, the boss pulls me in and he says, Spence, it's yours. We want you to be the X, Y, or Z. I'm super excited. And then I realize that there is no structure. There is no plan in the new role. There is no training. Should that be a major red flag for me? Or should I, because I've got an ego and I'm going to get a pay rise and, and I want this new job title that goes on my business card and more responsibility. I want all of those things. I love all of that kind of stuff. It's juicy.
I could see that. Congratulations.
but because I want all of those things, maybe I don't look for the red flags because I'm too sold on the opportunity to be making sure that there are effective preparations in place. Because I believe like your HR or your leadership team are responsible, but I also believe that the individual that's getting the promotion is responsible too. And I couldn't choose another example more than what happened recently in Formula One. And I know it's sport, but if anyone knows Formula One, you know that Max Verstappen drives for Red Bull, and the other car, no one seems to be able to drive. And they keep promoting people from the team below and putting a driver into the spare Red Bull car, which arguably is a better car. But nobody knows how to drive it. So Yuki Tsunoda, he's doing really well for the one team. They've put him into the Red Bull, into the spare seat in Red Bull. He's excited, and it's gone horribly wrong. He's dejected. He's feeling like he's a failure. He doesn't know what he's doing wrong. He can't drive the car properly. And to me, that's a great example of watching somebody getting promoted into a scenario that they
Yeah.
never expected to happen.
Yeah.
So what questions should Yuki be asking? What questions would I need to ask if I was in that position to make sure this preparation was done properly for me or with me?
So look, I think you're completely spot on, right? In a perfect world, the organization, HR, the line manager, they had the function would have prepared in advance. But I always believe in one thing: your own development and growth, you own it. Your line manager will not own it on your behalf. Your HR is not going to own it on your behalf. You own it. So you would need to drive it. Now you've reached a phase where, okay, you got the job and what is it that I would do? This is where you could reach out to a couple of people in your organization. Now, sorry, you picked up the wrong sport for me. I do follow Formula One, but I'm not an expert in. I wish you picked football, for example. Well, anyway, maybe the next one. So I think once you get the job and you go on for the first 30 days or so, you put a plan on what is going on. First of all, it's not like you got the short end of the stick. It's an organization that you already know. You know the people, and it's not like you left a job and you came in and boom, it's a surprise. Probably you were already aware of a couple of things that were going on, so that you have an idea. You've got a couple of people, sponsors in the organization that you could reach out to for coaching, for guidance, for mentoring. Now, this is where you are investing in yourself. This is where you are owning your personal development. And since you got the job over another 3 or 4, it means you've got something that others maybe miss out on. And if you leverage that to your best interest, to your, you could make a difference. So you could either say, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't have any support, and you put yourself in a corner, and then, things go downhill from there. Or you could say, okay, you know what, there's nothing in place for me. How about I create something? I would go then to my HR business partner and I'd say, okay, I'm in this role. What is it that I need to do to learn X, Y, Z? I'd go to my line manager and say, you know what, now you've given me this extra market. I want to go with you and visit that market, learn from you, shadow you. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to talk. I just want to observe, right? It's unfortunate. It should be the other way around. But if these are the cards that you were dealt with, what do? You need to make the best out of it.
So basically, we've got to take full ownership of whatever steps of growth we're going to have and not just be sucked in and seduced because
100%.
The big boss has said, hey, Spence, hey, Naoum, this job's for you.
100%.
Okay, let me take another example then, and we'll use football. Roy Keane has been said by nearly every Manchester United player over the years that he was the best leader the team had ever had. Everyone would put him first on the team sheet. When he was in the team, everybody played better. Nobody wanted to let anybody down. He was that powerful a force on the football pitch. He then leaves football as a player, goes into management, and arguably fails miserably. Mm-hmm. He had a big fallout with the national team in Ireland when he was in the World Cup with them. He's been at different clubs. He hasn't progressed anywhere. Now he's a football pundit. Mm. But he had instinctive leadership abilities. He was the guy that all of these guys said, I will follow you. Like William Wallace, let's fight for our freedom type of thing. Everyone charging behind the leader at the front. They're both leadership jobs.
Yep.
So how are they different? And how was he good for one and not for another?
That's a great analogy. Leadership, the first thing that people make a mistake about leadership is they think it's a one size that fits all. What works in here will not work in there. And I'll answer you on the football thing, but if you even look here, we are in this region. And if you are leading a team in Dubai with a certain approach, and you go to Egypt, to Cairo, or you go to Saudi, to Riyadh, and you lead a team there with the same approach, it's the same region, it's the same company, it's the same leader, you're going to fail miserably. Odds are you're going to fail miserably because it's not a copy-paste. So what Roy Keane, his team members liked with him being on the field was he was pushing them. He was driving them. He was guiding them. Go left, go right, fall back, all of that. When you become a coach, you need to adjust your leadership style slightly differently. And actually, there's a phenomenal framework which is called situational leadership, or SL2, by the Blanchard Company. And they actually teach leaders not to cling to just one type of a leadership approach. There are 4 different frameworks in that thing. And depending on the person, depending on the situation and depending on how developed they are or how comfortable they are in that situation, you need to use a certain element. For instance, Roy Keane, when he was a coach, he had a lot of young players in Man United, in the Irish team. And his job, his leadership trait should have been to coach them, not to stand on top of their heads and tell them and yell and shout and do this. And when they don't do it, I would see the videos, give me 100 push-ups. They would run the lap, they would run the football ground non-stop because they didn't do what he wanted them to do. But guess what? They didn't do it because they don't know how to do it. So in that scenario, in that situation, he needed to be more on the coaching side. In another situation, he needs to be more on the directing style. So it's not just I do something here, I do it extremely well, and then I go somewhere else and I copy it exactly the same. No. And it actually, you can use it on everything else. A CEO look at GE, for example, right? Jack Welch, phenomenal guy. His successor, Jeff Immelt, came, another phenomenal guy, failed miserably. Now, you could argue maybe not all of it is his fault, some of it is someone else's fault. Look at Steve Jobs and Tim Cook. Steve Jobs, when he stepped down due to illness, Tim Cook at the time was the COO of Apple. So he was running the operations of Apple. He knew the ins and outs. So what Steve Jobs, when he coached him, Tim Cook went on and drove Apple to become the company it is today that, I don't know, maybe Steve Jobs wouldn't have been able to do it. So it's not the same style that would work. And even if you go back to Apple, to Steve Jobs, when he first left Apple and he came back, the leadership that was there was initially, empathetic. Oh, you failed. It's okay. There's no problem. There's no issue. Steve Jobs came back and did not accept that. And this is something I think we talked about briefly before we started the podcast. Empathy is very important. Please don't get me wrong, and I hope the viewers do not get me wrong. Empathy is extremely important. But when honesty is missing with empathy, it's no longer a leadership trait. It becomes sugarcoating. And when you sugarcoat stuff, you lose the edge, you lose the respect, you lose the trust, and you don't build a proper culture.
Okay, so that makes me think of a couple of things. Number one, it makes me think of children in school sports days where you get a medal for finishing 8th. And to me, that doesn't teach you real life at all. Absolutely. Okay, you need to experience loss so that you can understand and celebrate wins. And so that whole empathy thing, sugarcoating without having honesty. Yeah, you did really well, but you came 8th.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Not, you did really well and you came 8th.
Exactly.
Is that fair?
You've watched Meet the Parents, right?
But I've been the parent that's been.
I've been the parent too. But that was 20 years ago, and they saw it coming, right? So he goes into that and he sees medals all the way up till 12th place. I've seen it as well as a parent, and it kills me from the inside. But I know that if I want my kid to learn, to aspire, and to be more driven, I cannot come and just say, celebrate him for finishing 8th. I tell him, I'm very proud of you because you tried, but okay, we need to try harder. Let's look back at why you came 8th, and then let's practice and make sure next time, I don't want you to be 1st. I want you to be 5th. I want to see an improvement rather than, you came 8th, amazing, fantastic, and you go out and you celebrate. Because kids, especially kids, they're like sponges. Whatever you do, and I learned all of these things when I became a dad, when you teach them stuff, they absorb it. They will never forget it.
This is interesting for me because if you take the Williams sisters, okay, if you watch the great movie that they made about them, if you take Tiger Woods, if you take David Beckham, most of these successful sports personalities that have had this huge success have had very, very driven parents.
And tough childhood.
Tough childhood, pushing them, okay, to the point of them not enjoying what they were doing, okay, for many years, whether that was playing the piano, playing a sport, whatever it was. But they look back on that now and they're very grateful that their parent did that for them.
100%.
Okay, and I've never seen an experience where a really successful sports person didn't have really supportive and pushing parents behind them. So for me, I think it's critical that if you want to have success for your kids, whether that's in sport, academia, whatever it may be, your career, you need that behind you, that pushing you and teaching you and guiding you. I just need to come back to this point on Roy Keane for a minute here.
Yeah.
Roy Keane on the pitch was do as I do. Off the pitch was do as I say.
Yep.
I've had this experience myself in business. I was a really successful wealth manager many years ago. And when any new recruit joined the company, they all wanted to work for me because I was the most successful salesperson.
Okay.
I had the most clients, I had the biggest clients, blah, 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 blah. And they all wanted to work for me. I wasn't the best man manager, but they wanted to work for me because they felt that there'd be some magic dust maybe that would be sprinkled over them, and they'd be able to soak in what I was so that they could replicate that themselves. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Those people that really wanted to be successful wanted to be around that kind of magic. When we apply those two thoughts to leadership, the Roy Keane is, I'm on the pitch, behave the way I behave, okay, and everyone follows. I'm selling and people want to learn how to sell better, wealth management, okay, do what I do. And then the do what I say. I think that it's the do what I say guys, that in that time it's much, much more difficult for them to get to persuade people to perform in the way they'd want them to. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
So there'll be many people that are listening to this right now that run a team of people. They could be in a startup, they could be in an SME business, they could be in a big sales force that they're running a team of people in sales, and they want to get the best out of people. They can see the potential of the people that work with them. They know what they could be. But as leaders, how do they teach desire?
There was someone quite senior that I worked with, and she always used to tell me or to say out loud that leaders create followers. Good leader has followers. And I hated that. I completely, utterly, totally disagree with it, because I don't see leadership as a popularity contest. A great leader creates leaders around him from those that work with him or with her. So could you instill desire? Probably not. Could you, through your ambition and through your inspiration, pass that on a little bit to them, and then they get inspired and ambitious enough to say, you know what, this is not good enough. Mm-hmm. We always say in the business world, good is no longer good enough, right? I mean, we one time in an organization, we were doing a strategy, and we said what goods look like, and the CEO went nuts, like, good is no longer good enough. So we changed the slogan and we said from good to great. And then we did the next year, we were like, so how are you going to beat that from great to gold? Because good is no longer good enough. It's on them. You as a leader, it's your role to provide the roadmap, to provide the guidance, the coaching. So take Alex Ferguson as an example, right? He used to manage Manchester United, and possibly one of the best managers in the Premier League, if not in the world. He literally begged David Beckham. He was his coach, he was his mentor. He took him on when he was still a child. He literally begged him not to go to Real Madrid. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because he knew the playing style doesn't suit David Beckham. And he knew that if he stays with Man United, he's going to have a better future. Now, what happened here is David Beckham, decided either to listen or not to listen. I'm not saying what he did was right or wrong. All I'm trying to say is, as a leader, your job is to coach. Your job is to guide. Your job is to be there, listen, be authentic. A lot of people ask me, what is leadership? Leadership is being yourself, is being authentic, is not saying things just so that people can hear. And there's this saying, do things like no one's watching. Everybody's watching. Everybody's watching. So it's about being there. It's about this authenticity. So going back to what you have said, could you instill desire? Probably not. If they don't have that fire in their belly, probably not. Could you guide them towards this is what great looks like, and if you aspire to go there, this is what you need to do, and you are guiding them and coaching them, then maybe they would. But you cannot force them. You can take the horse all the way down to the water. You cannot force them to drink. right? It's the same thing.
What is the difference between mentoring and coaching?
Great question. Coaching is you would sit and the person who's being coached would be the one who's talking the most, who would be the one listening. You would be listening to them, and then you would kind of be extracting the answers straight from them rather than giving it to them. A mentor is slightly different. A mentor would share with you his or her personal experience. What went well, what went wrong, what could go better. They also would be your kind of go-to person in the sense on what type of decisions to make, because you'd know them inside out. You'd know what are their key strengths, what are their key opportunities. You could be their sponsor in the organization. So they could help you, grow your career and be at the forefront of it, rather than a coach. And I think they both complement one another, but it's just how you actually do it.
I don't like that answer.
That's okay.
And the reason I don't like the answer is that if you and I were going to go and learn another language,
yep,
and we were going to learn, I don't know, Japanese together,
yep,
would it be wise that we learnt from somebody that speaks Japanese?
Well, ideally, of course.
Yeah. And if we wanted to go and make $1 million, would it be wise that we went and learnt from somebody that had already made $1 million?
No.
No. Wow. Okay. If you've never made $1 million and you want to teach me how to make $1 million, I don't believe you. You're giving me text. You're giving me academia. You're not giving me a lived live experience. That's my opinion.
Fair.
Okay. If you have, though, I'm all ears and I'll do whatever you tell me to do. That to me is mentoring.
Mm.
You've walked in the shoes before.
Yes.
Okay. Because you've walked in the shoes, I know that you'll have made the mistakes that needed to be made so that I don't have to make those mistakes, or I can come to you and I know that you will give me the answers that I need because you've been there before.
Yep.
The coaching side of it for me is where I get really frustrated with, because there's millions of coaches everywhere. Okay. Business strategy coaches, all these people that coach stuff, but they've never done it.
It's an up-and-coming business. Everybody now is a certified coach.
But it's like, I'm a certified coach. I've done this course and now I can coach. Okay, well, have you built a business to $1 billion exit? Have you built a business to an IPO? Have you built a business to raise capital? Have you built a business in this tech space? Have you built an AI business? Yep. No, I haven't, but I can help you do that if you just pay me $500 an hour.
I agree with you. Going back to the $1 million, if I want to make $1 million, I wouldn't go to someone that's made $1 million.
Whoa!
I'd go to someone that's made $100 million. No, seriously, and hear me out.
Okay, but
hear me out.
Yeah,
because you want to keep, what's the right word? You want to make sure that when you make that money, you don't lose it. A lot of people have made $1 million and $5 million and they lost it overnight for various reasons. Someone might have won the lottery. Someone might have gotten lucky.
I was one of those.
Okay, there you go. So it's about how do you keep that wealth. It's not on just how you accumulate it. And in today's world, everybody wants to make a quick buck. So that I wasn't trying to be smart about it. No, not a minute, it's 100. But I would like to look at someone that has gone through it, failed, learned, and then built it all the way up to reach an X number. Now, to go back to your question on coaching, you are 100% right. It's an up-and-coming business. Everybody gets, and some of them gets this certificate online, and all of a sudden they are this certified coach on so many different things. Now, coaching in the business world is you don't need to be an expert in something. I'm not going, when I go to a coach, it's not about, okay, how do I set up a business? I go to a coach hoping that individual has some sort of experience in their life that they could stimulate my thinking, open up my eyes, see a different perspective of things. That's why a coach would ask you questions, and then you'd come up with the answers. He would not tell you the answers because it would not benefit you. The answers that he or she knows worked well for him might not work well for you. A mentor usually happens in the business world, in an organization or what have you, where it's exactly what you said. You give, yes, I started here, I got up here, these are the hurdles that you're going to get, let me help you, pass them. I give you the tools, I tell you the steps. The coach's job is to listen more and talk less. And that's the main difference. Now, if we want to talk about how many coaches...
Therapist?
Minus the part where you lie down and and you open up about different things. It's listening more and talking less and letting the other party, the other person sitting in front of you, come up with the ideas, come up with the thinking. Doesn't mean that you don't maybe in some cases put him on the right track to get there, but you'd want them to come up with it rather than you, okay, you go do that. Right? Now, going back to your point on how many coaches are there in the world, it's become a business, and it is what it is. But if I think about it from a business world perspective, so if I'm in an organization and I've coached so many different people in my previous job and in other jobs, as a leader, you have a duty. And that's why I said leaders create leaders. They don't create followers. You don't want somebody to just follow you blindly because you're inspirational or you look nice or you want somebody to follow you because you inspire them to become better. You inspire them either to raise the bar and become better at what you do, be it in finance and HR. You inspire them to want more. Going back to your topic on the people that came to work for you, how do you create that desire? That's how a leader creates desire. That's how it happened, through coaching, through mentoring in some cases, but more so than often, through walking the talk. The worst part is you say everything. I mean, the fastest way to lose trust is to say one thing and then do another. And boy, oh boy, how many times have I seen it in my life, in my professional life, from very senior people. You'd see them, they'd go on an AMA in front of 2,000-3,000 people, tell you stuff, you'd be like, wow, oh my God. Then you see how they behave, how they react, they don't walk the talk, you lose trust, and you never gain that trust back. So it's not a 1+1 or a white or black kind of a thing. There's a lot more to it. There's a lot more investment to it. And leadership, when you get more senior in an organization, in my world, you still need to deliver, but your job is to prep the ones that are working for you, with you, under you. You start investing less time on preparing decks and guiding your team on the strategy and on how to achieve the strategy. When you're younger, more junior, managerial, senior manager, director, you're the one that's doing it. You're the one that you want to show it. When you're up there, when you're a CEO or when you're a CFO, you're not the one who's reviewing the P&L line by line, seeing what it is. Your job is to make sure your team are well equipped, they've got the right tools, they are engaged enough to do it, and then you guide them on how to do it better. I'm not saying you go back. No, I don't do these type of things. No, you do. But you do it slightly differently.
Okay, folks, let's talk about real estate. Now, a recent partnership that we've just established on the podcast is with AYS Developers. Luxury properties with high-end finishes from people that really understand the subject. Often in Dubai, you'll find stuff that is maybe substandard. With AYS Developers, you're not going to see that. You're going to see fantastic properties that you can buy, you can invest in, you can make a home on Dubai Islands and other places too. So go visit aysdevelopers.ae and check them out. I promise you it'll be worth the trip. We live in a country with 200 nationalities. Every business seems to be multicultural. I look at culture within business as something that's really important, and a lot of companies don't get it. What you often find is, the Filipinos go in one direction, the Indians go in another direction, the Brits in another direction, and so on. Everyone seems to kind of like move in their own circles within a business.
Yes.
And I don't like that. I like everyone to be together, which is just my flavor. I look at some companies that are predominantly one nationality. So predominantly Egyptian, predominantly British, okay, whatever it may be. They seemed to run more harmoniously. So I believe there's huge challenges for a lot of people running businesses where they're, I'm a British guy and I've got an Egyptian colleague and I'm building my company and I've just employed a Lebanese guy and I've just employed this Chinese dude that's really valuable for my new business coming in from China. And I've just employed this guy from Pakistan because there's a great opportunity for us to build our business in Pakistan. But they're different to me. I'm the British guy. I can't take them out at the end of the month for a beer. Because half of them don't drink. Some of them are really interested in cricket and some of them are not interested in cricket at all. So how do I find ways of creating that commonality and that cohesion and that bond and that leaders getting people to want to lead to be better themselves? What kind of advice could you give us from your own experience?
So look, from my own experience, I would say, yes. I mean, on the surface of it, when you say, okay, this entire company is Egyptians or Indians or British, they might be more harmonious, at least on the surface. But if you dig a little bit deeper into the organization itself, where's the innovation, right? And that's the beauty of Dubai. It's a melting pot. It brings everybody together, different religions, different ethnicity, different, you name it, everything is different. When you want to have a diverse team, you don't just, it's like the topic we talked about previously. You don't just bring in everybody and you dump them in and okay, go on, run. No, you need to create certain things. You need to create a playbook. You need to create certain policies. And I'm not talking those policies that, you are allowed to do this and you're not allowed to do that, but guidelines to protect people, for them to understand the different cultures that are there in that organization. So in my experience, the more diverse the team was, the more you are able to innovate, to be creative, and to create relationships. Yes, you might not be able to take that specific group out at the end of the month for a beer, but you could go out with them on an evening and have a shisha, for example, or have a tea or something. A lot of them would go out, they would not grab a beer, but everybody else would. So you could find a middle ground, kind of, to bring people closer together. You could do a lot of initiatives on the employee experience front in the organization, in the business, to bring those people closer together, to get them to know one another. You don't need to be best friends. You don't need to hang out every night after work, but at least at work, it's worth it, because that's where innovation kicks in. That's where creativity starts. And I think we live in a blessed country, not just when you talk about from a safety perspective and, infrastructure. We're blessed to be in such a melting pot, because that's how you learn. When you're working with everybody that looks the same, talks the same, does the same things, you learn. Your learning curve is up to here. But as a leader, if on my team I've got an Egyptian, an Indian, a Pakistani, a British, a French, a whatever, it's going to be a steeper learning curve, absolutely. But nevertheless, it is a learning. And instead of reaching the peak here, I'm going to go all the way up here.
One of the things I've remembered from that is that we're far more alike than we are different.
Absolutely.
And I think what I was expressing in that question to you earlier almost suggested that I think we're far more different than we're alike.
I know you.
Yeah, I know you. But I mean that sincerely, because I think a lot of the time, we will sit. I'm married to somebody from Uzbekistan. My colleagues in the office are different nationalities, but we laugh and joke, and some of my jokes go down really well, and some of my jokes are absolutely useless. they fall dead on their face.
You win some, you lose some. That's all right.
Talk to me about taking care of people. I was with a friend of mine recently who's the CFO of one of the big accountancy firms here. And I said to him, talk to me about what wellness strategies you have for your team. And he said to me, the best wellness strategy I've found is to take all of that money that people spend on steps challenges, and all this other nonsense. He said, take all of that money and invest in getting the very best medical insurance you can buy for your staff, from the T-boy all the way up to the chairman. He said, because if you heavily invest in that and get the best that you can possibly get for them, and you make it clear that they've got the best, they will understand that you take their health really, really seriously.
Absolutely.
How do you Well, you hear something like that. Do you agree with that? Do you think that wellness in a business is a bit of a kind of a misnomer or a bit of a nonsense to some degree? I'd really like. I mean, you've got all these years' experience in HR in these big companies, and so it's like because I get this people banging on about wellness, and it's like if I've got a mission and I've got a purpose and I've got a sense of belonging. And I know what my career path's going to be because you've laid it out for me and you've given me this massive opportunity. Why do I need Fruit Thursdays or Pizza Fridays? Why do I need this other kind of like nonsensical?
Don't need that?
Blood tests. Opticians come in to do free eye tests. Everyone learn first aid. Why?
Okay. That's an excellent question. You asked like 6-7 questions in one thing. Okay.
I'm looking at a bit of a rant there.
Look, I completely agree with what that CFO said about the medical insurance, especially in a place where 95% of people are expats and healthcare is not cheap. But before I reach to that answer, I think today we've reached globally, not just in the UAE, but globally, we've reached the peak of what I'd like to call wellness or well-being theater. From free fruits in the pantry to yoga Wednesdays to meditation app that nobody uses. These are all well packaged fluff if your core is broken. And by core, I mean your culture. And the culture for me, it's the how. It's not the what. It's the how you do things. So if your culture tolerates burnout, if your culture, dismisses feedback, if your culture is policies that look nice but don't work, no wellness initiative is going to clean that up. Full stop. Whatever you do. Okay. And actually, I haven't shared this before, so I'm going to share it with you for the first time. This is what led me a little bit over a year ago to start writing a book. Exactly around that, around the fluff that we are finding and seeing today more and more in the corporate world, how companies really work and how they could work and could perform a lot better only if we stop pretending. So to go back to I think wellness initiatives are quite important. They do not replace medical insurance or other stuff, and I'll tell you why. So SAP, I'm sure you've heard of SAP, right? A huge conglomerate, big technology company. In 2013, there was an industrial engineer. Imagine an industrial engineer, and he created a training. And he came up with a proposal on a training that they called searching inside you. And that training was about mindfulness or awareness. It was about neuroscience. It was about leadership development. And they launched it across the globe. Several tens of thousands of employees attended it. And a lot of the people that attended it became ambassadors for that training and for that program. And keep in mind, that was back in 2013.
Yeah.
Now, they did the training, which was great. They complemented it with few things on well-being initiatives, such as flexible working options, 24/7 mental health, family benefits. And they started measuring something called the BCHI, Business Culture Health Index. And when they first measured it in 2013, after they did all of this, they scored 69%. And that number rose to 78% in 2018. You might say 9% in 5 years. Okay. Now, when they measured every percentage point, what did it add to the operating profit of the company? Throw a number. Go wild.
50 million.
Every 1%, 50 million. You're almost there. Just 50% less. Almost 100 million euros to their operating profit. So they generated 900 million euros in a span of 5 years. Now, I don't know about you, but companies would kill for that amount of money. And they did it without entering a new market, introducing a new product, buying another company. It was right under their noses. They listened to what their people wanted, And they didn't just package it as a fluff. We have this, we have that, free fruits, free pizza, and all of that. No, they were serious about it. And it was top down. Well-being and wellness, and I say it in my book, it's not a perk. It's a leadership decision. And if your leaders don't live it, your staff are never going to believe in it. And the reason I gave this example is you don't need to remove all of that and replace it with a decent insurance. You could have best of both worlds because it pays itself. They generated 900 million. No matter what amount they put, they will regenerate it in no time. So you could do different things that really makes your people feel, you know what? They actually do care about me.
So break this down, because people would have listened to that, then they just heard this massive amount of money and they'd have been like wanting to rewind and go back to listen to that again. Give me 3 things that a company can do, okay, that could make a seismic difference to the business from a culture and well-being point of view.
Okay. First of all, if you don't, everybody has got these nice values posters up on their wall. If you don't mean it, if you don't live it, take it down. So the first thing is walk the talk. And I'll give you an example that happened straight with me. I used to work I worked for a company called Mars, the chocolate company. Mm-hmm. And I have never seen an organization like that. Walking the talk, living by its values, and they didn't have to, we'll give you this, but we'll take away that. The example you gave me about the CFO, about the medical insurance, and Mars, from the office assistant all the way to the regional president, had the exact same insurance. Why? Because part of their values or part of their 5 principles is mutuality. We're all equal. Why should the president get top-notch? And it was a top-notch insurance. No co-payment, you get dental, optical, you name it, right? It was, what did it lead to? In Mars, we had practically 0 attrition rate. Practically 0 attrition. Over a period of 3 years, we wouldn't have anyone that would leave voluntarily. Now, that wasn't all just because of the insurance. It was because the organization lived by its principles. They had those 5 principles up on the wall: responsibility, mutuality. They lived, leaders in the organization lived by it. We used to have the Mars family members. They would come and they would talk about the 5 principles. They would highlight how important it is for them. So the first thing is walk the talk. Because I'll say it again, the worst way or the fastest way to lose trust is to say one thing and do another. The second, be there, be authentic. If you can't do it, you can't do it. You could always put a plan and see, okay, we're going to try and do it later on if we achieve X, Y, and Z, right? So be there, be authentic, understand what your people want. Maybe they don't want medical insurance. Maybe they want schooling benefit because everybody has got kids and school is so expensive here. Maybe they don't want that. They want something else. And this is what SAP did, by the way. They went out and they collected data from employees all across the world. They understood what they wanted, and then they built the program from the bottom up rather than parachute it down, and this is what it is. So you need to be intentional about these things, because the easiest thing is to bring a consultant or bring in your HR department and tell them, bam, do for me a wellness initiative, and they start doing yoga sessions on Wednesday, pizza on Friday, this on that. It might do some sort of a difference, but it will not stick. It's not going to stick. After a week or 2, people are going to be, okay, well, what the heck? Yeah, great, I'm having pizza, but I can't pay my bills. Great, I'm having pizza, but I don't have an insurance for my wife. So those are the things that really matter. And there are organizations that really get it right. And there are organizations who are on track. But unfortunately, there are organizations that they make a conscious decision and say, no, we don't want that. Especially when you're in a market like Dubai. Influx of people coming in, talent left, right, and center. You don't want the job, 10 other people can get the job. But this is short-term thinking. I'm not saying it's right. It's absolutely disgusting. But it's short-term thinking. And that's what sets up successful companies. That's what made Mars being what Mars is today. SAP, PepsiCo, Unilever, Majid Al Futtaim, all of these companies, that's what sets them apart from everything else that's happening in the world and all the other companies.
Do the rules do the rules apply differently if you take, I don't know, there's a real estate broker here in town called Allsop and Allsop. They're the largest broker here. They've got, I think about 500 agents that work for them that are all on commission only. Does it change, or do you have to approach it differently if your business is made up of 650 people, of which 500 earn their money based upon how hard they work?
You mean in terms of the benefits or the wellness that you want to offer?
The result you want to get, because at the end of the day, how you lead that group of people, I'm sure, is different to how you lead a group of people that are salaried. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, so lots of businesses that employ these direct sales forces that are here, and there's 28,000 real estate brokers that are here.
Yes.
Okay, you know, because everybody knows at least one.
Yes.
Lives next door to, at least one. When you look at that type of, because we keep leaning into the kind of like the corporate stuff. Most people don't work for corporates. Most people actually work for SMEs. And if you take the dynamics in an SME, you know, maybe it's a company of 12 people. 15 people. You're the CEO, I'm your business partner, and we've got 10 other people that work for us. Surely it applies differently with that kind of group of people. If you've got a group of people where majority of the office are commission only, how do you deploy the SAP, the Mars principles into those types of businesses? Is it exactly the same or completely different?
You don't need to deploy the same. Remember, it's not a one size that fits all. So the Mars, the SAP, all of these global companies, we're talking about global companies, what they do in North America, they don't copy it to Europe. They don't bring it to Dubai. Maybe they bring some of the best practices, but on the day-to-day, they don't. And Pepsi, for example, PepsiCo has done something a few years ago. They brought in their global executive leaders and then their local executive leaders, put them together on a mentorship program, not to teach them, but to learn from one another. So that global executive leader who's sitting in that very nice tower in New York and overlooking the business understands what happens in Dubai, understands what happens in India, understands what happens in France. They share that. This is how you build the bridge. So I'm pretty sure, I mean, without even asking or checking, what they offer or they provide in New York is very different than what they provide here. But there's always a baseline. There's always a minimum. There's always best practice or something somewhere to start with. So to go back to your question on those companies that have 12 employees, it's a lot easier to do these things. Very much easier to do for 12, to take 12 people out to dinner and have a nice time rather than having 650 people and, you know, this person doesn't drink, this doesn't like Italian, doesn't like this, doesn't like that. So it's a lot easier. But you need to have the willingness. You need to, again, understand those 12 people. What do they want? Brokers, all they care about, deals. They want products. They want development products. They want GSV. Give us GSV and you will not hear from them. If they're sitting in the office and they don't have anything to sell or relationships or what have you, this is where you start having an issue. And the last thing on their mind is medical insurance or wellness or whatever it is, because they need to pay the bills and brokers live off of commission. So it really depends on the type of business, but the smaller it is or the more SME it is, I find it, I might be completely wrong by the way, but I find it slightly easier than when you are working at a regional conglomerate organization. Right? Majid Al Futtaim has got 40,000 plus employees. Do you think they could please all 40,000 and whatever? They could have the best practices that are out there in the book.
Still have someone pissed off.
You're going to have 10,000 of them that are not happy. I can guarantee you that. So I find it might be a lot easier only if you are authentic enough. Because again, people can read right through it. They can see if you are not authentic. And if they don't see it from the first time, they're going to see it when you don't walk the talk. They're going to see it in a meeting, in an interview, in an event, in something. When you say, oh, I can't pay you bonuses this year because, you know, it's been pretty tough for us. But then the owner buys a new Maserati or a new Ferrari, or you'd be like, oh, hold on a second. You know what I mean? So,
okay, so tell me this. what kind of an impact does a pay rise or a bonus have on increasing performance?
I'm of the school that thinks financial incentives are pretty much short term.
Okay, so they're short term.
You'd enjoy it, you'd love it for the next month or so, but then you get used to it because you upgrade your lifestyle. And then all of a sudden, that 10,000 dirhams or 500 dirhams or 100 or a million, whatever it is you got, is no longer enough.
So do you get more out of a new job title than you get out of a pay rise?
Absolutely not. I'm the type of person that tell you keep the job title because
Okay, but
where do you expense it? Where do you There are a lot of people that would prefer the job title over the pay, but I'm of the school that thinks where do you expense the job title? Yes. Now, why do you need to be in a situation where it's either or? In a proper situation, a proper organization, you'd get both, because if I'm calling you a CEO, I've got to pay you what a CEO should be getting. Now, different industries will vary in terms of pay and benefits and all of that, but the idea is the same. If you're an office assistant, you're going to get a salary of what an office assistant gets. Why would I want to be called a CEO and I'm getting paid like a senior manager? Yes, it's great. Actually, it could have a ripple effect, a bad effect on you, because when you're called a CEO, the expectations of you are quite up here, whereas your responsibilities should be down here.
You can clearly see that I've got some issues with how HR managers see things. And I don't mean that as any disrespect to them. I really don't. I just believe that if your employee doesn't know why they're coming to work every day, then they need to know. Mm-hmm. And not be told, but need to feel that they go to work because they're part of something greater than themselves.
Yep.
Of course, everybody needs to get a paycheck because they need to make sure that they can feed their family and stuff. But people that go to work every day energized because they feel they're part of something. They go to work and they feel they've got career progress and opportunities ahead of them. They go to work because it's a fun environment to be in, because they spend a lot of time there. They go to work because they belong. They go to work because there's a future. It's these types of things. It's like, what is our mission? And you talked about the values. Loads of companies have mission statements. Most people in a company don't know what the mission statement is.
Yep.
And so it comes back to your point. But for me, should we not be spending the most amount of time we possibly can to help that employee get onto the mission, feel like they belong, make sure that they feel there's a future for themselves? Should that not be where the energy goes? And if I worked for you and I came to you and I said, look, what's the future for me in this company? And you said, Spence, it's whatever you want it to be. And I went, I want to be the CMO. Okay. Is that what you really want? Yeah, I've thought about it. Okay, well, go away, Spencer, and think about that for a week and come back. And if you still want to be the CMO, let's talk about it. And I come back to you, no, I want to be the CMO. Okay, if that's what you want to do. Tell me what qualifications you've got to prove that you're worthy of being the CMO. Well, I've got these 2 qualifications. Okay, well, there's 4 you don't have. You're going to need to get those 4. So how do you propose you're going to do that? Okay. And you give me these steps.
Yeah.
And then you say, do you know what? If you're that committed, we'll pay for those 4 courses that you've got to go on. They're 4 residential courses. So you've got to go there. It's your weekend. Okay. And go and take those things. Okay. And we'll give you a roadmap to become CMO. Okay. I can't guarantee it's going to be the next 2 years. It might be a 5-year journey. Okay. Because of where you are now, but we'll give you that roadmap if you really want it. That gives me something as that person. I want to be there. I'm here now. That's the goal. You've given me a roadmap. I'm on board now. I'm unrecruitable.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
It does.
But there are so many people that go to work every single day that get up in the morning and I scream at them on social media to go to the gym and do some exercise. And then they get up and they go to work and they show up at work knowing they've got to be there because they've got to get the hours done so they can get the paycheck. And I just don't like that. And I don't think that's right. And I think employers let employees down, making them experience that.
Okay. It's a tricky one. I think, and I'm one that always holds the mirror and say, on HR and say, okay, there are a lot of things that we could do better, but you cannot force people to do stuff. I mean, to your example on people, how they go and they show up to work. Sometimes the employer does everything that's possibly there to be done, and still the employee is, because not everybody is the same. Not everybody has got the same fire in their belly to wake up and go and try and do things. I've known people, some of them I worked with, some of them I didn't. I've got friends who they're happy with just going to work, doing the bare minimum and getting out. They're not even interested. They don't have even an interest to learn something more. If a promotion comes up, they don't want it. They don't want it. They're happy where they are. And that type, I mean, you need those people, right? I mean, let's face it. You don't want
the worker bees.
Exactly. You don't want everybody to be aspire and ambition, and everybody wants to become the CEO in the organization. You need those people. It's like when you are doing a potential assessment on your employees in the organization. You don't want you've got something called the 9-box grid, where in the middle, these are those that are really driving the ship every day. And then on the right side and on the top, these are the ones that are your future leaders. And then on the left, you've got the experts. Now, you do want the experts. You don't want everybody to be on the far right and the top box where everybody has the versatility and the agility to become a CEO, because then, okay, your recruitment strategy, there's something flawed with it, and you would not end up making anybody happy. So I think we need to look a little bit more into that. Now, definitely, HR, the company, to create a sense of purpose for people to come and engage to work, 100%. And I've seen it, and I've worked at an organization where it was quite big, and you could be you could be working in the same building. One floor of a business is extremely different, much more highly engaged, happy, etc., versus someone that's just one floor above. Different leadership. It all goes back to that. Now, you were also saying something on. There was a follow-up to that. What was it? My mind has gone blank now.
What, with the CMO opportunity?
Yes, the CMO. You were saying on what? Okay, I've had this exact same example, just different function. And I had someone who came in and said they were doing development. They said, I'm fed up with development. I'd want to go and work in design. I'm like, okay, did same thing that you were saying, credentials, this and that. And I was like, okay, you know what? We're going to put you 2 weeks with the design team. Let me know if you're going to like it. Because he went back and said, this is what I want to do. I really want to move there. Put him there for 2 weeks. 5 or 6 days later, he came and no, that's not for me. People don't always know what they want. I don't always know what I want. And I have this fight with my wife every other night, what to have for dinner. This, no, that, no, this. We don't know what we want as human beings. We think we know. Once we can, and I think this is one of the greatest approaches to do is, before you commit and you say, okay, go on, do this and do that, try it, test it. You work in the same company, you can provide that opportunity. It's not like you're hiring them to come and do it for a couple of weeks or you're investing more money. So I think this is where HR needs to step out from that comfort zone. And I told you, I hold up the mirror on HR. And I think HR as a department, as a function worldwide here and outside of here, excuse me, started being a little bit more, how can I say it, politically correct. We have started to overcorrect things, way overcorrecting them. We are now more focused as an HR department to be the department that is liked rather than the department that is effective. I went into HR not because I like people and I like to work with people. And I heard and I understood this from a coach I had a very long time ago. If I like people, I would have gone and worked in a government place, in a ministry somewhere. I liked HR because I believe that HR has a role to play as a business partner, as a co-pilot. You get exposed to all sorts of things that go around in the business, and you get to have a say on what should happen and what should not happen. So you're part of the decision making only if you are that strategic business partner. So HR today, a lot of organizations, new and old, have gone into this more, okay, we need to create a new culture because everybody now wants mental health and wellness and this corporate culture where it's all around empathy and kindness and kind candor and you name it, all of these weird adjectives and vocabulary. Please don't get me wrong. They're very important. I am not saying that we should not be kind. I'm not saying we should not be empathetic. But it should not be just that. We should not forget about performance. We should not forget about honesty. Because think of it this way, and I've seen it time and time over again. HR, they sit, want to give you a feedback about your work. I don't want to hurt your feelings. Oh, Spencer, you're great. You're amazing at what you do. But this one instance, you didn't do it quite well. But it's okay. We believe in you. How would you leave that meeting? Well, I haven't done anything wrong. There's nothing for me to learn. I could still sit with you and say, okay, hey, Spencer, so this is the situation, 1, 2, 3. The behavior so we were sitting in that leadership team meeting and Sarah was talking. Your behavior was you kept on cutting her off, which she wasn't allowed, or she did not have the chance to share her message. And the impact was all of us were a little bit lost on what was the message that Sarah was trying to get across. So maybe next time, please, I know you have something to say, which we want to hear it, but how about let's let the person who's talking finish, and then please provide your input. Don't you feel that you leave that feedback session saying, okay, I know what I've done wrong?
Get it. I get
right?
it. Okay, last question for you. What is the project you've been involved with that you're the most proud of?
Oof. Project that I was the most proud of. Okay. I'd go back to my time at Mars. It's a sad story actually. There was a decision to wind down one of the key chocolate factories here in Dubai, in Jabal Ali. And that factory had approximately 200 associates working in the factory, producing Galaxy, Mars, Snickers, all of these brands. And there were team members and colleagues and associates working in support functions, be it supply chain, quality and food safety, engineering, R&D, you name it. So it had a ripple effect. So the business had changed the strategy and they wanted to start moving things towards Saudi and Egypt and focusing a little bit less on chocolate and more on pet care and other stuff. I'm not going to go too much into details. So that, and I felt very, I loved working for that organization because of the principles that were there and because of the leaders that were there. So when I was working on it, it was a little bit of an emotional roller coaster. But I'm very proud of it is for a couple of things. One, how open management and leadership were on doing it and doing it right. We're talking about impacting approximately 250, 300 people. So maybe 1,500 overall with their family members. And
you had to fire?
Yes, we had to close it down.
So you had to fire everyone?
I'm getting to that. That was, we wouldn't have any more 250 or 300 roles. Let's put it that way. So the management, the leadership, the leader that I was working with, he was the executive director of the site, a gentleman from South Africa, left a huge mark on me from a leadership perspective. Phenomenal guy. Anyhow, it was always about the people. So what we did was, and I have never seen this ever in my life, and I don't think I will see it ever again. We were honest with people. We took them to a hotel and we explained to them what we were doing and why we were doing it. We informed them that we're shutting down the factory based on these timelines. Everybody's going to lose their job. This is the timeline. We're going to inform you when you're going to be impacted. Some of you is immediately, some of you in 6 months, some of you in 9 months, some of you in 1 year. The power of transparency and authenticity. 200, 250 people impacted. Of course, they were upset. Of course, they were worried. But they trusted us. They trusted the leadership. They said, what can we do to make sure we close down the factory in the best possible way? In 1 year, the next 12 months, we used to do Gallup surveys every year for engagement. I don't recall if it was we came in number 1, but we were in the top 5 across the globe, across all of Mars in terms of engagement. And that was a team that was getting fired, that knew that they were getting fired. So why I'm proud of it is because the easiest way to have done it is, okay, I'm very sorry that this is not how we did it. We listened, we understood, we supported people. We ended up from the 180, 190 associates who were working in the factory. I and some of my colleagues, we went to Nestle, we went to IFCO, we went to different companies and we told them, we've got these teams, they are amazing, haven't done anything wrong, but this is what has happened. They ended up recruiting them. We contacted our sister companies we had a lot of people from Kenya. We contacted our gum business. We had Extra and other Wrigley business. They went to Kenya to work in the factories there. We ended up with very, 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 very few people that did not find a role. And even the support functions, a lot of them have moved to France, moved elsewhere. And I'm very proud of it because you could have looked at this in two different ways. Either rip off the Band-Aid, pay everybody what they need to get, and they're out. Or, no, these are actually human beings. And it's very, very, very rare nowadays where organizations and leaders put the benefit and the well-being, this is well-being, this is wellness, puts the well-being of people above their priorities. And we did so many different things. We even got them a lawyer to explain to them stuff about, the labor and stuff like that. We created a career fair and a career center for them in the office to apply for jobs. We brought LinkedIn to teach them how to build a profile. So when you do these steps, and that's why everybody remained 100% committed. No, very few people left before their time finished. Everybody wanted to stay on board. And that goes all back to leadership, not my leadership. It's that executive site director. So I think that's
a nice story.
One of the
Thank you for that.
Things I'm proud of.
It's your first podcast. How did you feel you got on? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, pretty nice. You tell me. You tell me.
You enjoyed it?
It was very fun, yes.
Okay, good stuff. Naoum, I can't say thank you enough. It's been great fun talking to you today. You've given me some great information and some insights, and obviously people listening and watching this right now are going to get to know this character that you are, and obviously the person that impacted me and is going to impact them too. So thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me here. Thanks, Spence.
This episode is proudly sponsored by Allsop & Allsop, Dubai's leading and largest real estate brokerage. Now, with over 16 years in business, Allsop & Allsop have transformed the real estate experience for thousands of buyers, sellers, landlords and tenants. By leveraging cutting-edge technology and data-driven insights, they are the consistent driving force behind the growth of Dubai's real estate sector. Their unmatched expertise and industry knowledge empower clients to navigate the market with confidence no matter what their needs. Committed to finding your perfect home, they, without exception, ensure your real estate experience is as seamless as the property itself. Whatever your property needs, keep moving with Allsop & Allsop, the trusted choice in Dubai real estate.